Hello guys, I am back from another video and today we talk about what if Deku had quirk creation redo. So, in the last video we talked about how, after that whole incident where Bakugo basically, decided to defect towards the villain side so he can gain more power so he can become the #1 hero, but even though it's more like he's about to become the #1 villain than anything else. So after that incident, everybody would be pissed at him because of it. But they would be informed that they're going to be having a brand new classmate. In this case, Izumi Midoriya. So when classes finally start once again, they would be told by Izawa that they're going to be given hero names. So after getting their hero names, which in Izuku's case was, Fer Noir, which is French for, black iron. So, after, getting that hero name, he would basically decide to join the agency of Mirko. So, after arriving there, Mirko would basically, tell him to basically try and fight her at full strength. So, after a while fighting, Izuku would basically be defeated by her, because he forgotten to give himself, maybe a stamina-based quirk. But after losing to her, she would say that she doesn't really know how to use, swords and things of that sort. But she does have a friend of hers, or in this case, a sidekick that's literally good with swords. So, because, Izuku doesn't really know how to use a sword, it's more like he mostly uses his raw strength to basically fight. So, after being told that he's able to, train with this guy, aka, Mirko's, sidekick, which his name is Kazuha, after basically a while of basically training with him and also basically going around the city where she, lives and also protects, well, it sort of became just, pretty normal. Until the last day of his, internship, where they were attacked, or more specifically, the entire place was attacked, or the city was attacked, by a large, army of villains and nomus. So, Izuku would basically, go around to a little, corner of the city and basically summon into heroic spirits from his, summoning quirk. And these people, or servants, in this case from Fate Grand Order, not technically, one of them is technically not from Fate Grand Order, I meant somebody, or more specifically a servant, was not from Fate Grand Order. I meant Fate Grand Order. God damn it. So, in this case, this, servant was Heracles Archer. So, Heracles Archer was obviously from, Fate Strange Fake, which this version of Heracles is quite powered. Super overpowered. He can even beat freaking Gilgamesh. Yes, the guy, as in, this servant was able to literally fight against the #1 hero, or the first hero of man. So yeah, that makes him quite overpowered if he's able to beat Gilgamesh. And the other servant that he's able to summon was Babon Sith. So, he would basically, tell both of them to basically get ready to fight, the Nomu, and basically capture some of the villains. After a while of fighting, the villains would bring out a large-ass Nomu with 2 heads, and yeah, let's just say that thing is more like a monster than anything else. So, when both Heracles and also, Babon Sith saw this, they would both use their noble phantasms. In, Heracles' case, he would use his noble phantasm 9 lives, and as for Babon Sith, she would use her noble phantasm Finch Feynot. After using them, they would basically kill the Nomu and defeat it. So, Izuku would basically tell both of them to basically go back into, his little pocket dimension, or more specifically, just die, or just, disappear. Izuku would basically come back, and also see, a pretty hurt Mirko. But after arriving there, she would say that after basically, defeating some of these villains, he would probably be pretty popular now, because of the whole, saving the city from all of these villains. So yeah, after getting back home, which that home, or at least the home that he's basically, staying in for the time being in the, internship, was, Mirko's house. So, Ezekiel was basically getting ready to pack all of his things to basically go back to his, um, go back to the dorms in UA. He would basically say goodbye to, Mirko, as he would basically fall asleep, and then the next day, he finally comes back to go back to, to the dorms of UA. So yeah, so that is basically what happened last episode. And so, let's talk about what happens next. So, after getting back to UA, Izuku would be approached by some of his classmates as they would say, "Dude, what happened to you in the internship? You were pretty awesome there." As Izuku would say this, what do you mean by that? As one of them would say this, "Have you seen the news or something?" Said, Kaminari, as he would basically bring up his phone as he would see a headline. Or should I say like a document or whatever you want to call it. Basically in a news website, apparently Izuku's been pretty famous there. And apparently he was declared as the newest number one hero, or more specifically, number one hero in training right now. Because apparently the whole fight between, the League of Villains and also, that city in particular, well, they were leaked. As everybody's basically approaching him saying that he was pretty awesome. As everybody's basically trying to talk to him, one person would basically, run up to him. As Izuku would get hugged by this person. And that person was Momo. As she would say this, "I missed you." As Izuku would say this, "Momo, we should probably go back to, our room." As everybody's just looking at both of them, as one of the girls would say this, specifically, as Mina would say this, "I didn't know both of you were a couple," as, Izuku would basically adamantly, start to, say that they're not a couple, but nothing more than friends. As, Mo would start to, become a little bit, saddened by hearing this, as after they got back to, their dorm room together, well, Izuku would basically say that it's better to hide our relationship because if people know, well, he can obviously be a target after all. After Baku's, deciding to just basically decide to become a villain, well, if people were to know that, both of, he is basically dating Momo, or, Momo's basically dating, Izuku, well, they can probably just, capture one of them and basically, force them to basically, how do I say this, get defeated or captured of that sort, as, Momo would basically think about it, as she would say this, I guess so. As Izuku would say this, yeah, so it's better if we just, it's better if we just hide our relationship for now, okay? As she would say this, I guess so. And Izuku, as Izuku would say this, what? As she would say this, well, have you seen the news? As Izuku would say this, the news about what? As she would say this, well, this. As Izuku would see on the news that apparently Momo was, was basically in his, basically in her agency, and that in that agency she was mostly focusing on ads and, some of those types of things. For example, ads and things of that sort, being ads in movies of that sort. Basically just in canon. So, after seeing the video, or more specifically a commercial of, basically her being in that commercial, well, Izuku would start to nosebleed because that commercial was basically promoting, swimsuits. And after seeing her, swimsuit, well, Izuku would noticeably, start to bleed from the nose. As she would say this, what do you think of my... As Izuku would say this, yeah, it looks pretty good. As Izuku would basically start covering his, his blood-covered nose. As she would say this, Izuku, what happened? As Izuku would say this, oh, it's nothing at all. As Izuku would start nosebleeding even more, even though he's basically, stopped watching it. But he does, thus starts thinking in his mind about, her basically wearing that in front of him. And actually, I'm not even going to say it because I'm probably going to get demonetized. So yeah, so after that, Momo would basically start asking him if she, thinks, wait for a second, God, would ask if she looks pretty good in those, swimsuits, as Izuku would say this. Yeah, they look pretty good. uh, oh god, as Izuku would start to nosebleed even more, as Momo would say this. Anyway, we should probably get some sleep. After all, the next day is going to be class. As Izuku would say this. Oh, yeah, I almost forgot. So, Izuku would basically start to go to the bathroom as he would basically change his clothes. Momo would basically change into her, nightgown, as both of them would basically, go to sleep. The next day comes as it's finally time to go back to school. As everybody's gone back to, classroom, as Aizawa would basically, arrive there. He would explain that they're gonna be having a summer, training camp soon. When it's finally, summer. As everybody's basically excited, as, wait for a second, god dang it. As Aizawa would basically glare at them as he would say this. Unfortunately, this is a training camp, not a damn summer camp. Training camp. The training part is pretty prominent, and it's not about fun or anything of that sort. So, you better prepare, and you better prepare perfectly, because if you were to try and do anything stupid on that training trip, you're fucked. He would basically say that. As everybody would basically shut up, as I would say this. Anyway, you have a few days of basically, doing whatever you want. Just get supplies or anything of that sort. So, after he basically leaves, everybody would basically decide to go to the mall to basically purchase some items, like for example, tents, food, like things of that nature. But Momo and, Izuku would decide to just buy some of the stuff online instead. As, both of them would just be alone in the, in the dorms, just all alone, all by themselves. So yeah, after a while of basically, purchasing some items on, I guess you could say like a rip-off version of eBay, I guess. And when they got those items, like for example, tents, sleeping bags, something of the sort, and after that, they would basically wait for their, classmates, and when they, got back, from the, mall, some of them looked, kind of tired. As Mina seems to be, grabbing a large, and I mean a large bag of stuff. As Izuku would say this. What the heck is that? As she would say this. Oh, yeah, I sort of bought a lot. As one of them would say this, specifically, Ida. Yeah, because all of us were, wait for, because all of us were basically shopping together, we decided to just order everything in one bag. But unfortunately, this person decided, or at least the cashier decided to become a little bit literal and decide to put it in just one bag. As one of them would say this, yeah, said, Kaminari, as one of them would basically say this, specifically Jiro. Yeah, and not only that, it's sort of, well, as some of their, sleeping bags would start to smell like fish. Izuku would basically, start to laugh a little bit, including, Momo. As one of them would say this, specifically, Kirishima. Yeah, I guess it's kind of funny. As Izuku would say this. Anyway, guys, I'm just gonna be going to sleep now. Let's go, Momo. As Momo would basically start to leave with him. So, the next day comes as everybody's basically getting ready for the, training camp. As everybody's basically packing all of their things, and including Izuku and also, Momo, as they would start to carry some of their stuff with, Izuku shadow clones. So, after, putting some of their stuff in the, large, bus, they would start to go onto the bus as they would basically start going towards the forest. Izuku would basically be in a seat right next to, Momo, as Momo is basically sleeping on his, shoulder. She was quite sleepy after, packing all of her things for the, training camp. So, Izuku would just be there, just feeling her, breath on his, neck and shoulder. But he wouldn't mind. Izuku would basically, wrap his hands around her, back and basically, pull her a little bit closer to him. As one of the girls, specifically, Mina would say this. Oh ho ho, lover boy, eh? As one of them would say this, specifically Ochako. Yeah, they seem to be quite a cute couple. As one of them would say this, specifically, wait for a second. As Kaminari would basically try to do that with, Jiro, but Jiro would basically stab him right in the eyes with her, with her ear jacks. As he would basically say this, oh, what was that for? As she would say this, no touchy. So, yeah. So, after that little shenanigan over there, so they would basically make it towards the cliffside, and when they basically start to, basically get out of the, bus, wait for a second. As everybody's basically out of the bus, they would basically be on the cliffside. As one of them would basically say this, specifically, Ida. Hey, Mr. Aizawa, why are we out of the, bus for some odd reason? And why did we even stop in the first place? As Aizawa would say this, oh, we're just here for fresh air. As when Izuku heard that, he would start to feel a bit worried, as four figures would basically come out of there from the forest, and these, as all of them would basically seem to have this similar theme to them. In this case, animal ears and tails for some odd reason. As one of them would basically, put her hand on the ground, as it would create a large chasm, as everybody is basically falling down to the ground. As Izuku would basically create, not really create, more like, go into a dark area and basically grab Momo, as they would basically teleport to the ground. Thankfully, not getting hurt. As Momo would say this, whoa, that was, as Izuku would say this, yeah, I sort of learned it. Not really, as you would think in his mind, because he already, had this ability. So, after, doing that, she would say this, how about the others? As Izuku would say this, oh, I got it. As Izuku would start to, create shadow portals and also, shadow-like hands to basically grab all of them, as everybody would be safely on the ground. And including Izumi. Izumi would basically land on top of, well, she would basically land on top of Todoroki. As when Todoroki, saw this, Todoroki would say this, oh, hello, Miss Izumi. As she would basically start to get a little bit flustered, as she would say this, oh, I'm sorry, Todoroki-kun. She would basically start, be flustered, as she would basically start blushing a lot. As, Izuku would start to laugh a little. As she would basically look over, as she would say this, that was you? As Izuku would say this, well, yeah, I do have the ability to create shadows, so, as she would say this, wait, you're able to create shadows? As he would say this, not technically, I'm able to manipulate shadows, and I sort of accidentally made you, fall on top of, as she would basically become a little bit mad, but, just ignore it because she was safe. So, as everybody is basically getting their grounds, or, how do I say this? As they would get, the lay of the land, as they would realize that they're basically in the forest proper. As Izuku would say this, so I'm guessing this place is where the training camp is, or at least somewhere far away from it, I guess. As one of them would say this, I think so, said not Kaminari, I meant, Tokuyami. As Izuku would say this, I think it's better if we start, moving towards the, forest. Maybe the, maybe the training camp is over there. As Izuku would basically point at the direction. As everybody would start to think, maybe I guess, but still. So, Izuku would basically stand up as he would basically start going into the forest with Momo. As everybody would start to follow them. While in the forest, it's been about, wait for a second, about 30 minutes, about 30 minutes ever since they basically left that, little spot of theirs. As, while they were walking, they heard the sound of stomping. As one of them would say this, hey, Kaminari, was that you and your, as he would say this, no, I didn't use my electricity. As one of them would say this, specifically, no, specifically Jiro, as Jiro would say this, yeah, that was definitely not Kaminari. It sounds like it's getting closer. As when they looked behind them, they would see a rock monster, or I guess you could say as this large monster made from earth basically, screamed at them, they would start to, scatter away, including Izuku and, Momo. Momo would start running away with her speed quirk, as Izuku would basically follow her with his, version of that quirk, which is, maybe about like 10 times as faster. So, after a while, basically, escape from that monster, they would basically, arrive at the training camp. I'm at training camp. God damn it, my dyslexic ass. As when they meet it at the training camp, they would basically look towards, well, Aizawa. As Aizawa would say this: "Oh, you finally arrived. Alright, start training." As Izuku would say this: "Why? Why are there freaking monsters there?" As, he would say this: "Well, let's just say, one of our, I guess you could say, one of the camp's leaders is an earth manipulation type quirk user." As Izuku would say this: "So you basically told her to create monsters?" As Momo would basically try and calm him down. As he would say this: "Well, yeah, why not? After all, you need to get some training done." As Izuku would say this: "Training? You basically scared us half to death." As he would say this: "I guess you can say it's a motivator." As he would say this: "Alright, anyway, we should probably get going." As Momo would say this: "Yeah, agreed." So, after, talking to Aizawa, they would start to get ready to basically go train. So, they would start to go training, basically, practicing with their quirks, or in this case, Momo, and also with her, speed quirk. But for Izuku would not need to train, but he would train in his body and also with his swordsmanship. He would basically start training with that, and, start training with a bit of his quirk. And, well, the reason why he's able to, not, train with his quirk is, well, he's overpowered enough. So he can basically just I don't know, give him the ability to create anything or something of that sort. So yeah, don't need to train. So yeah. So Izuku would basically start training with his body and basically learn how to, use his sword much better. And thanks to the help of, Kazuha and giving him some, I guess you could say, papers or instructions to basically, I guess you can say train him in, when he's not there or something of the sort. He would basically, train a lot, and so basically learn how to use this brand new sword technique, which he uses his darkness to basically create a slicing edge. So yeah, so after a while of training, Izuku and Momo would start to, get ready to make, dinner. So Izuku would start to make, Izuku would decide to just make, pigs and blankets and also bangers and mash. And if you don't know what the heck are those, well, bangers and mash is basically just like mashed potatoes and also some sausages. Or was it blood sausages? I can't really remember all that much because I never ate it before, but I do know some English stereotypes, and remember, Izuku's technically half British, so yeah. So, he would also create, also make, pigs and blankets, which pigs and blankets are just basically, hot dogs wrapped up in, what is that called exactly? Wrapped up in puff pastry. So, after doing that, Momo would say this: "Oh, it looks pretty good." As Izuku would say this: "Want to try?" As she would say this: "Do I?" As she would basically try the pigs and blankets, as she would say this: "It's pretty simple, but it's super good." As Izuku would say this: "Thank you. How about you?" As when Izuku looked over, he would see that she's making like a simple Japanese dish. In this case, katsudon. After Izuku looked at it, he would basically try it for the first time. After trying it, he would think it's pretty good. As she would say this: "Whoa, it's pretty good," said Izuku. As Momo would say this: Thank you. It's a dish that, my mother teach me." As Izuku would say this: "Oh, that's pretty cool." So, after, trying out their dishes, they would basically put it on the large table outside. So, when the other students arrived, well, let's just say they were battered and also pretty sweaty. So, after seeing Izuku and also Momo basically preparing, dinner, They would basically arrive there as they would basically, change their clothes as fast as they can, and also some of them would take a shower and then, change their clothes. So, after Izuku came back with, some rice, he would see that every single one of their, classmates are there, as Izuku would say this. Well, that was, as she would say this, specifically, Momo. As Momo would say this, I guess they finally did it. So, after, going back to the table, as everybody would basically, say thank you to their meal, as they would basically start eating, as everybody's basically, complaining how, Momo and Izuku basically got here first, as Izuku would say this. At least I wasn't the one that basically had to train up, a bit hard. As Momo would say this. Yeah, agreed. Like, seriously. She would basically, look at her hand as she would start to create lots and lots of those Russian nesting dolls or whatever you want to call them. As one of them would say this, specifically, Mina. What the heck was that? Specifically, Mina. As Mina would say this. Yeah, I'm pretty much worried about it. As Izuku would say this. Yeah, you should be worried. I'm guessing that, not All Might, I'm guessing that Aizawa is going to, work us to a bone. As she would say this. Gulp. She would basically, gulp, as everybody would start to gulp as well. Except for, Izumi. As Izumi would basically look at Izuku, as she would say this. Anyway, Mr. Midoriya, or Izuku or whatever, as he would say this. Just call me Izuku, as she would say this. Okay, Izuku. Mind telling me why do you have the same name as as mine? As everybody would start to look at him, as Izuku would say this. Well, I don't really know. The only reason I know, or at least the only reason why I have the same name as you, I think maybe it's because, well, I'm half Japanese. As she would say this. You're half Japanese? As he would say this. Yeah, I'm half British. As she would say this. Really? You're from... As you would say this. Yep, England. And not only that, I sort of, left England so I can go back to my, to my roots, I guess you could say. As she would say this. I see. As she would basically look at him one more time, as she would basically say this. Anyway, I should continue eating this. She would basically start eating the katsudon as she would be in heaven right now. So, after Izuku basically ate with the rest of his classmates, and including Momo, they would basically get ready to go to bed. So, Izuku and Momo would basically sleep in the same tent, as Izuku would basically go closer to her. As she would say this. Well, this was, as Izuku would say this. Yeah, a bit hectic. I meant a bit wait for a second. I meant a bit hectic. She would say this. Yeah. So, Izuku. As Izuku would say this. Yeah? As she would say this. Well, you know about our whole, marriage thing? As Izuku would say this. Yeah. Why? As she would say this. Well, I'm okay with our marriage. After all, after a while of basically, talking and also, having fun with you, I sort of realized that I like you. She would basically look back at him, as Izuku would start to blush a little bit. As Izuku would say this. Oh, really? As she would say this. Yeah, I realized that. So, if you do get married, I want you to, I don't know. She would basically, touch her stomach, as Izuku would say this. Oh, that. As she would say this. Yeah, I always want to be a mother. After all, my mother was pretty nice, so I want to become a mother just like her. And I also want to become a hero so I can protect others, just like Mom. As Izuku would say this. I see. As she would say this. Anyway, Izuku, can you come a bit closer? As Izuku would basically go a little bit closer to her, as she would basically, grab Izuku by his face and basically kiss him right on the spot. After kissing him, she would say this. I love you, Izuku. As Izuku would say this. Yeah, I love you too. Oh god. As after, getting kissed by her, well, he would basically be a blushing mess. So yeah, after that, Ezekiel would basically, fall asleep in the arms of, Momo. She would basically go to sleep in the same way as well. Both them both of them are basically holding each other in their arms. And so, both of them would basically fall asleep, including the others of the, training camp. So yeah, so that's basically what happened last episode, or in this episode. So yeah, so this is going to be the end of this episode, and so I hope you liked the video, comment, and subscribe, and I hope to see you guys next time. Bye-bye!